Now, good afternoon, guys. Good to see some smiling faces. Missed seeing you guys a little bit, but glad to jump back on here and talk about the Memphis football program. Obviously, a great day for our program and our university as we continue to add student athletes. As many of you guys will know, a lot of these guys were our student athletes signed here in December. We were able to add a few more additions here today. Really excited. I think we'll also have some more news later in the day when things become official. So we're going to hold off on a true press release from the university here with maybe within the hour or so. We'll make sure we get that information out to you guys as soon as that's done. Obviously, now we're free to talk about transfers that are enrolled and started with us as well. We were able to add quite a few guys there. But all in all, look, very excited about the future of this program. The type of young men we added not only are great football players, but the type of young men we want to represent the 901, our university, and continue to improve upon our football program. With that, I'll open up to any questions.
Evan, first question.
Ryan, good seeing you again. How are you?
Good. Evan, good to see you.
Good. So, you said, are there some kids, two things. One, are there some kids that you can speak on now, or are you just waiting for the full release to come? And
Yeah.
Two, first, that was my first question. Yes.
Absolutely. Yeah, there's some guys I can talk on now, right? I mean, we saw that, Zy Brockington, Javon Nelson, and Eric Randall are guys. We expect a couple more that we all talked about. And then there's quite a few walk-ons that we'll also be able to announce as well that are going to be great that will come through on our social media account here before too long.
Okay, great. And then my second question is, obviously you mentioned the transfers, and that's kind of made this day even more big for you guys besides the new guys. Would you be able to speak on just kind of, what you're expecting from the five, mainly with Grant obviously coming in at quarterback?
Yeah, really excited about him. I mean, Grant Gunnell, Devontae Dobbs, Julian Burnett, Shamar Nash, Javon Robinson, and I think, one guy that a lot of people think highly of is Jeremiah Oatsfall as well. But really excited about those guys. Plus we added a few others, and I think that's important. As we've all said, and I've talked about this, and I know you guys are delving into this as well. This transfer portal is a new realm for all of us. It's, and to lack of other words, it is free agency in essence. And you're constantly doing roster management. But let's talk about those individuals. We'll start with Grant, a quarterback that came from the University of Arizona, a highly recruited player out of high school. Grant's a smart guy. He's very big. Grant's at least 6'5", probably 225. Looks the part. He's done a great job trying to learn this offense as quickly as he can. He'll be thrown into the competition. He certainly is not our quarterback yet. The nice thing is we've got guys that we like in our quarterback room that will come and compete with him. Devontae Dobbs was, as you guys well know, one of the highest rated recruits coming out of high school at his time. A young man that I actually met unofficially when he visited our school a few years back. And obviously wasn't talking to him when he was at Michigan State, but when he went in the portal, that previous relationship and having the opportunity at one time when I was the O-line coach kind of butted him to reach back out and show his interest here. So we're excited about him. Julian Barnett, anybody that knows Julian knows that he's an athletic freak. We are going to be playing him at the defensive back position. I know he played some wide receiver at Michigan State, but we're going to throw him in the DB room and see what he's capable of. But he's a great, great athlete. Shamar Nash and Devon Robinson are two local guys, right, that left and went to SEC schools and realized that maybe not be the best fit for them. We expect both those guys to come in and contribute. And then Jeremiah Oatsfall, a young man from Austin P, who had a lot of success, a kid that I watched play in high school. We're excited to throw in the fold, and he'll kind of be moved all over on our offense, not just at quarterback, but wide receiver, maybe some running back, jack of all trades.
Terry.
Hey, how you doing, Coach? A long time no see.
Good to see you, Terry. You doing okay?
I'm well. I see you didn't get much rest when you left the bowl game.
Yeah, I got you.
Hey,
that and the season aged me about 20 years, but yeah.
Question. I know that Gunner's going to be here, but how many more guys going to enroll in school early so to get that early start on the spring?
Yeah, so that we're at where we're at. So once school has started for us, generally within 4 days of the school start, you can't bring any more guys in. So our roster guys right now, just so you know, not including the signees today, but going into spring practice, and I know some of you guys have asked about seeing that roster. It's just as we're cleaning some things up. We're at 103 currently on our roster. It's the largest roster in my short history at Memphis that it's ever been. And I think part of that is, right, you had some of these guys coming back. And so, Terry, for that, we won't have any more new enrollees. So even if, and I don't mind, this is just a general overview and education for all of us, right? If a kid goes in the transfer portal from another school, I can't bring them here until June, until that next session starts, really. So that's kind of the way this whole deal works. And vice versa, right? If a young man leaves us into the portal, but our roster is getting pretty darn full with where we're at and what we can do and move things around. So as you well know, like I said, Terry, it's about roster management. But yeah, the 103, let's knock on wood that those are the same guys we were able to go out there and compete in spring ball with.
Christian?
Coach, you talked about Grant Gunnell a little bit and the competition in the quarterback room. How excited are you for that? The spring, you talked about the spring the other day on that Memphis UCF broadcast, and I would imagine a lot of your spring is going to be evaluating that quarterback battle and seeing which guy steps up. So how excited are you to watch that unfold?
Yeah, very excited. Obviously by nature I go towards the offensive lineman, but now I'll be going towards the pretty boys and hanging out with the quarterbacks. And I think that's important. We know that position's as instrumental to anything we want to do as a program moving forward. And, the nice thing is we feel like we got 4 guys that go in there to compete, right? Keelan Brown, Grant Gunnell, Peter Parrish, and then Seth Hennigan, who just came here, right? Literally, Seth played I mentioned this the other day on the radio. Seth played his state championship game, got about 3 hours sleep, and was on his way here to start his career at Memphis. So we got 4 quarterbacks that we feel like can come in and compete for that starting job. And guess what? Doesn't mean I'm not always going to look in the portal, constantly bringing competition. That goes at every single position we have.
Cassie?
Hey, Coach, can you kind of talk about that transfer portal? It's like an enigma. We don't really know what it's like in there. But are you looking for specific pieces? Are you looking at names? Or how are you kind of attacking that?
That's a great question, Cassie. And I talk about it with our staff all the time. Okay. You sit there and say, okay, ideally we want this many scholarships at this position. We want this many scholarships at this position, but literally an entire room, let's use our tight end room, for example. We'll say you have 6 scholarship tight ends. Well, if you lose 3 to the transfer portal, all of a sudden now does it make sense to go get 3 transfer tight ends? Or are you better off recruiting high school guys and developing them? And are you trying to, get your walk-ons to develop into scholarship type players? All those things are kind of, you delve into it in your roster. I mean, you may have plenty of numbers and then the next day that could change. So that's a great question. I think right now we're looking at best available players that best fit what we want to do. There's been some great, highly touted guys that have gone the portal that have showed interest in us that I have said, hey, it's just not the right fit for us. And that may be because of the numbers out of that position. But I use the word competition a lot. We've got probably more running backs on scholarship than most programs. And that's part of it. And, at some point, some of those guys got to step up and and the reality of this is it doesn't shock me if, after spring ball, more guys from the University of Memphis are getting into the transfer portal. That's the way this is. And when that comes, right, if we lose, say we lose players at X position, right, and I say, well, okay, just because I lost 2 players at X position, that doesn't mean I go get 2 players from X position. Now maybe I go look at position Z and bring in 2 of those. So it's constantly filling the holes. And I don't want to look at this as Band-Aids, Cassie, with the transfer portal. I look at it, okay, how can we continue our roster and filling holes and needs long-term, not just a quick fix. That doesn't mean we're going to bring a grad transfer because that's part of this. But, that if I wanted to mortgage the roster, probably would have just gone with his senior heavy laden class and not signed as many guys and try to use our initial scholarships there.
Steven?
Hey, Ryan, how's it going?
Good, Steven. How you doing?
I'm doing well. You guys, I think it's a given you guys are about to sign the highest rated class in Memphis history. Obviously, you guys have landed a lot of elite players from the portal. What do you think has just kind of led to you and the staff just being so successful these last few cycles?
Yeah, Steve and people will ask, and I know Brian's on here too, and some you got Christian, Jonah, people always say, well, does it matter the rating of the class? Look, I just think that shows that other people throughout the country thought enough of these young men to rate them high. And so I do believe in that. It's great. I don't sit there now. like I've always said, some of our best players here have been no-star guys, and some of our guys that haven't worked out have been some of our highest-rated guys. But to me, Steven, first off, credit needs to go to our recruiting department, starting with Landon Salem. He's done a fantastic job. But then, our staff, everybody it's all hands on deck, right? From our medical staff to our academic support, especially in a pandemic, right? It's going to take everybody. And so credit should go to the coaching staff, or the support staff, everybody that's been involved. They've just done such a wonderful job. And it's an easy sell. Selling the University of Memphis, selling our football program, our great city, those are easy things to do. And so do you fight certain schools in recruiting battles? Absolutely. And like I've told you guys, I don't mind going toe-to-toe with anybody in recruiting. And I think that's the mindset we have to have. And I don't know if that had always been the case. So I think that's going to continue to help us moving forward, that I don't care who else is offered a young man or who else may be recruiting or what else he may be hearing. And by having that mindset, we feel like we can at least go out and compete and try to get the best fits for what we want to do.
Clayton?
Coach, you pretty much just answered what I was going to ask, so I'll pass.
All right, Evan, go ahead.
Kind of to piggyback off of that, from when you got here, 5-6 years ago now, I think, is it easier now to sell Memphis? Because obviously with the success over the last few years, obviously you've seen more and more kids more interested, but could you just maybe speak on just kind of how much easier it is now compared to when you first started recruiting here?
Yeah, you're right, Evan. This is entering year 6. So, which, as you guys know, is a long time. It's, in this profession, but loving every minute of it. And it has, right? Like I always say, credit to those that came before us, and whoever it may be, Tommy West, Larry Porter, Justin Fuente, all those guys that came before, Norvell and I were here, and credit to Mike Norvell. But we've been able to continue the rise of the program and put it on a national stage. And obviously winning helps that. But also I look at the things that the universities are able to do, right? The success that of our city is more nationally known now than ever. And I truly believe that. Someone said before the pandemic, and I don't quote me on this, but more millennials were moving to Memphis, and it was one of the top cities that millennials were moving towards. So I think that's great, because then you have a hot city where people are excited to move to, and then a university that continues to improve itself academically, and it's standing throughout the country. So that and winning football games, the facilities, pouring into the relationships, right? As we've been here, those relationships are more and more known, right? Talk about those relationships in Central Tennessee, the Nashville area where we were able to recruit. Now, man, those coaches are like, well, you're the only one that's still, that's still recruiting at the same university that's been there for so long. So it's easier for those high school coaches to trust and understand the process. And I think the success we've had with student athletes off the field, it has gotten a little bit easier, Evan, but as we continue to go swing with the big dogs, and we're trying to put ourselves in that status, every day is a battle. And like I said, recruiting is a 365-day deal.
Christian?
Coach, I want to go back to roster management for a minute, because I think it's very interesting, and it's really unprecedented to have to do it, at this level with the amount of players that are in the transfer portal. You said you guys are about 103 scholarships right now, with all the enrollees in, and then you have the rest of the mid-years coming in over the summer.
All right, be coming back.
Yeah, 103 players. Yeah, you
Yes,
would,
yeah.
would be doing too hot with 103.
I only have 85 scholarships right now. I'm still trying to get to that, but yeah.
Right. So with that amount of players and that amount of people to just navigate and have to deal with that many players, what has this process been like, going through the transfer portal, having guys go into the transfer portal, and just roster management over the past couple months? What's it been like for you?
Yeah, Christian, that's a great question. And I've been pretty open with you guys about this whole thing. There's certain players that have entered the portal. They've come and talked to me in my office, and I've said, hey, it may be in your best interest, when they talk about entering the transfer portal, because we try to educate our guys and let them know, hey, right now there's 1,200 kids in the portal, and you do the math, it's near impossible for you to find a home, and allow them to say you're right. And then there's others that say, that talk to me about what they want to do academically. And I recommend, if that's something they want to do, they have the ability to go in the portal. One of the things, I'll share a story with you. I had a coach, I won't name names, but across the country, a head coach that was going to dismiss a player from his team. Okay. And he called the meeting with the player that afternoon. Well, that morning, the player went on social media and said, I'm entering the transfer portal. And the local media in his area were all up in arms, and he's told me his athletic director called and said, what the heck, why is this kid leaving? You know, he said he's looking for greener pastures, and he never had a chance to suspend the kid or remove him from the team because the kid went on social media and said, hey, I'm entering the portal. And I think that's a lot of those things going on in college football when, you know, that sometimes it's in the best interest of both parties to go their separate ways. But one of the things, Christian, that's helped prepare me, and I truly mean this, and a lot of the stuff I learned in the NFL didn't carry over to college football, but the NFL is roster management, right? And you look and say, okay, when is this guy set to be a free agent? How can we do this? What kind of cap space do we have? And so one of those things that's looking at our numbers, where can we fill this hole and this need, or what can we do with that? So I try to be smart. I try to be conservative with our scholarships, so I know where we have and what they're going to be, looking at our walk-on program, where we may be able to fill some of those voids and needs, any of those guys on scholarship. And then also have its balance, right? I didn't want to go into this year. If I returned, what do we have, 16 seniors last year? If all 16 came back and Brady White came back for his 12th year and all those things, well, then that'd be at 101 scholarships. And how does the university manage, the University of Memphis manage that? That's a lot of money for them to be asking to be put on, scholarships when they're only used to having 85. And then what do I want the roster to look like? Do I want it to be, I'm going into a year with 32 seniors, and then I didn't sign many freshmen just because, but that's not fair. And like I said, we're trying to build this thing for long-term success. So I look at all those things, Christian, and to piggyback off of Cassie's question is, what positions, where can we go? What year is this guy? And, do we need to fill that void? And instead of just randomly just going and finding the absolute best players available, it's where are the holes, or where can we add more competition, I guess. Long-winded answer to your question, but I hope that makes some sense. And it's, guess what, guys, there may be somebody from our roster may go into the transfer portal today, and reality, it may not have a effect on what we need to do immediately because, one, we can't bring anybody in, but okay, maybe that was a position that we had enough guys at, right? Or it may be a position that, okay, as soon as we're able to add more guys, that's got to be someone we got to bring back in. So it's ever changing, it's ever flowing. It's made, we always say recruiting is an everyday deal. But now, I joked around with you guys during COVID. I used to take the depth chart and the game plan home with me, waiting back for those Thursday night results. Now I take our depth chart and our entire roster home with me, to see, okay, where does this, if someone goes into the portal on our own roster, I try not to get upset, try not to get frustrated about it. It's part of this whole deal.
We got two more, starting with Terry.
Hey, Coach, not only do you have a lot of people left because they left for other reasons, you also lost a lot of leadership with Brady and a lot of other guys. So how do you rebuild that? Because that's one of the special things about this team, not only talent, but the brotherhood they built. So now with all these new guys coming in, you're going to have to reestablish that in a COVID situation. So how do you do that?
Yeah, Terry, that's exactly right. And what's been unique to this, and Terry, I actually talked to our staff about this on Monday morning, was, we're able to be around our guys, right? We can't do mandatory meetings and all that stuff, but we're able to be around our guys now that more than we ever were. During COVID, we were very limited. And COVID's still existing. We're still taking the precautions and doing all those things that matter. But you remember, a lot of our new staff came in, and then we didn't get to see our guys, right? A lot of these Zoom meetings, a lot during the season, being precautious, right? Players weren't coming over the houses. So the relationships weren't always what they need to be, player to player, player to coach, coach to coach. And that's one of the things I kept proceeding that we need to continue to get better at this off season. And with us being not able to go on the road, you guys remember, normally we get back from a bowl game, get a week, and then we're hitting it and getting it on the road. And then I'm coming back, for a quick signing day deal, take a couple of days off and then back at it. And so being around the guys has helped. But I also think it's my job is to help develop the leadership. We got a lot of guys that are capable of being leaders, some that need to be shown the right way to do things. And, Terry, I think it all falls back on the culture of a program. And I don't use that word lightly because we're constantly building the culture. You can never say we've got a perfect culture. It's how can we constantly keep it at a high level and continue to improve upon it, no matter how many years I'm here. And I think that's one of those things, and the culture should breed leadership, and leadership should bring, a better culture. And so I like a lot of our guys on our roster are in leadership roles, and we've already been able to see it, through the workouts and just their communication, from the way the locker room looks, for how they're parking, knock on wood, how they're living their lives. I think all that is entailed in what we want from them, not only as leaders, but in our overall program.
Steven, last question.
Hey, Ryan, coming into the cycle, I guess, what were the positions that you thought were the biggest area of needs? And now that you guys have mostly the classes intact, how do you think you guys did in terms of addressing those needs?
Yeah, Stephen, I think you look at it and you say, okay, well, with the transfers, you sit there and say, okay, where were the holes? I mean, we had commitments that we've had committed for a long time, and guys that even signed before we lost guys in the transfer. But then, the second wave, you say, okay, who are the guys we need to add? What do we got to get here or there? I think we were as balanced as we've ever been here since I've been here at Memphis, right? With the ability to sign 2 high school offensive linemen and bring in the transfer, right? And then you look at the number of offensive linemen we lost. So that's exactly where you want to be with that, right? We signed 1 running back. Like I said, our running back room's pretty darn full already. With the ability to add a tight end, the ability to add a handful of D-line, which I always think linemen, and I've told you guys this before, O-line and D-line are the hardest things to bring in, because sometimes the guys get picked off last minute by bigger programs. And I think we're exactly where we need to be, but wide receiver, DBs, we've added a handful of DBs that can play corner or safety. So Steven, I'm not trying to give you a generic coach speak question. I really feel like this is a well-balanced class at every position, and not just heavy laden in one or the other. And then at the end of this thing, when it's all said and done, when the dust settles, and it may be May, when spring ball is done, we may say, okay, where do we fill other voids we need, right? Whether some of our guys enter the portal, or, hey, we still got a couple scholarships out there available now in order to get to our 85. Where do we need to find those and proceed from there?
Thank you, Coach.
Thanks, guys. Y'all have a great day. Stay healthy and well.